Hey guys, I don't usually start recordings like this, but I need you to hear my voice while it's still steady. I'm standing in a place that feels wrong in a very quiet way. The kind of wrong that doesn't jump out at you, but settles into your chest and refuses to leave. The air is cold. Even though it's summer, and the stone beneath my feet has a dampness that seeps through the soles of my shoes, like it's been holding its breath for centuries. Above me, the chapel looks harmless, almost forgettable. A modest roof, weathered stone walls, a bell tower that hasn't rung in generations. But beneath it is the reason no one comes here anymore. I didn't come for thrills. I didn't come to be reckless. I came because there's a name missing from history, and every record I've found stops at the same year, 1791. After that silence, no burial rites, no public mourning, just a sealed order, signed by trembling hands, declaring the royal tomb closed for the safety of the living. When you read something like that enough times, curiosity stops being a choice. It becomes a pull. The chapel door groans when I push it open, the sound stretching too long, echoing back at me like the building is repeating it on purpose. Dust floats in the slanted light, slow and deliberate, like it doesn't want to be disturbed. Wooden pews sit crooked, their cushions eaten away by time, and the altar is bare, except for dark stains that no one ever bothered to scrub out. I step inside, and the temperature drops another degree. My breath fogs faintly. I close the door behind me, and the sound of it clicking shut feels louder than it should. I tell myself it's just old stone. Old places are always cold, but my body doesn't listen. My shoulders tense, my skin prickles. There's a pressure here, not heavy, just persistent, like a low note playing under everything else. I walk toward the altar, my footsteps muffled, and that's when I see it, the outline in the floor. A rectangle of stone slightly darker than the rest, edges worn smooth by something that used to be moved. This is it, the tomb beneath the chapel, the one no one has dared to open since the 18th century. There are symbols carved around the edges, shallow but deliberate, not decorative, functional. I kneel, running my fingers along them, and feel a faint vibration so subtle I almost convince myself it's just my pulse. Almost. The markings aren't royal crests, they're warnings. I recognize fragments from old manuscripts, protective seals, containment glyphs, the kind scholars argue about because admitting they were used seriously would mean admitting fear played a role in history. I set my pack down and take out the journal I brought with me. The paper smells clean. Out of place here. I flip to a page where I copied a line from a court archivist, written days before the tomb was sealed. We bury not a king, but the end of him. No explanation, no context, just that sentence, underlined twice, the ink pressed so hard it tore the page. I glance around the chapel again, half expecting, I don't know what, movement, a shape, but everything is still, too still. Even the dust seems to have settled. I stand and circle the altar, counting my steps, grounding myself. This is a place, just a place. People have been afraid before and survived. People have sealed things before and been wrong. But then I notice something else. Scratches. Not on the floor, but on the walls, low, near where the stone meets the ground. Long, shallow lines, uneven, overlapping. I crouch, heart picking up speed, and shine my light across them. They aren't claw marks, they're fingernails, human, some deep enough to have chipped stone. I swallow hard, my throat suddenly dry. I imagine hands in the dark, reaching, scraping, desperate, not from inside the tomb. No, that would be too simple. These marks are outside. Someone was down here after it was sealed. Someone tried to get away. A sound breaks the silence, soft, almost polite. A single knock, muffled, coming from below my feet. I freeze. The rational part of my brain scrambles for explanations. Old buildings settle, air shifts, rodents, anything. The knock comes again, a little closer this time, vibrating through the stone into my bones. 3 taps, slow, intentional. I step back without realizing it, my heel bumping into a pew. My breathing gets loud in my ears, and I force it down, in through my nose, out through my mouth. "Hello?" I whisper, hating myself for saying it. Hating the way the word seems to sink into the floor instead of rising into the air. Nothing answers. The silence stretches, thin and tight. I wait for relief that doesn't come, because deep down, I know this isn't about sound. It's about attention. Whatever is beneath this chapel knows I'm here now, knows I'm listening. I gather my equipment with shaking hands, setting it carefully by the altar. If I'm going to document this, I need to be methodical. Calm. That's what I tell myself. That's what I've always done. But as I place my palm back on the stone seal, I feel warmth this time. Not much, just enough to be unmistakable. The tomb has not been opened in over 200 years, and something inside it is awake. I don't leave. I think that's important to say. A smarter version of me would have backed away the moment the stone felt warm, would have locked the chapel door behind him and driven until the sun came up. But I stay, because once something notices you, distance feels like a lie you tell yourself to sleep better. I tell myself that if this place has waited since the 18th century, it can wait a few more hours. I tell myself I'm still in control. I sit on one of the front pews and open the journal again, forcing my hands to steady by giving them a task. The silence presses in, thicker now, like the chapel is listening. My flashlight beam cuts across the walls as I read, illuminating words written by men who sound calm on paper, but frantic between the lines. Orders stamped with royal seals, margins filled with cramped notes, ink blotted where the writer paused too long. One entry keeps pulling my attention back. A mason's report, dated 6 months after the burial. He describes being summoned at night, sworn to secrecy, told to reinforce the crypt, from the outside only. He writes about the smell first, not decay, something sharper, metallic, like old coins rubbed together. He mentions hearing voices, plural, speaking in unison from beneath the stone, begging him to finish quickly. The last line is written in a different hand. The mason did not return home. I close the journal and look at the walls again. The scratches seem longer now, like my eyes are tracing paths they didn't see before. I stand and follow them, slowly, letting the light skim across the stone. Some marks overlap others, fresher cuts, crossing older ones. That shouldn't be possible. No one has been down here in generations. I tell myself erosion can play tricks, but the explanation feels thin. Near the back of the chapel, half hidden behind a collapsed section of wall, I find something new. A small alcove, barely tall enough to stand in, its entrance sealed with loose stones. Someone didn't want it obvious. I move the stones aside one by one, each scrape sounding too loud, and reveal a narrow space with a wooden box inside. The wood is warped, darkened by age, but intact. Inside are loose papers, brittle and yellowed, tied with a faded ribbon. Personal letters, not official, not meant for archives. I kneel on the cold floor and read them by flashlight. My breath shallow. They're written by a court physician, addressed to no one, confessions maybe. He writes about examining the king in secret, about symptoms that don't align with any illness he knows. The king doesn't sleep. The king doesn't bleed properly. Wounds close too slowly, then too fast. Mirrors are removed from his chambers at his request. One letter stops me cold. When he speaks, it is not always him. Sometimes his mouth moves, but the words come from somewhere deeper. I hear them echo after he stops. I glance up instinctively, listening. The chapel remains silent, but my ears ring faintly, like they're adjusting to a pressure change. The physician writes about the decision to seal the tomb, with rites borrowed from older traditions, ones the church officially denied, but quietly funded. He describes the crown placed inside, not as a symbol of rule, but as an anchor, heavy, inscribed, meant to hold something down. The final letter ends abruptly, the ink smeared as if the writer was interrupted. There's a single sentence beneath the smear. If it learns to wait, we are finished. I hear movement then, not a knock this time. A slow dragging sound, far below, like something shifting its weight across stone. It travels, stops, then resumes closer to where I'm standing. My pulse thunders in my ears. I force myself to breathe quietly, as if sound itself might draw attention. I return to the altar, drawn back like there's a line tied around my ribs. The warmth beneath the stone has spread. I can feel it through my boots now, faint but undeniable. I crouch again, examining the symbols more closely. Some are cracked. Hairline fractures running through the carvings, subtle enough to miss unless you're looking for them. Time hasn't just worn this seal down. Something has been pressing against it. I trace one symbol and feel a vibration respond, stronger this time, like a low hum. The air smells different now, that metallic tang the mason described. My stomach tightens. I realize with a sick clarity that the warnings weren't just for people who wanted to open the tomb. They were for the people who had to stay near it, to remind them not to listen. A whisper brushes the edge of my hearing, not words. A suggestion of sound, like someone breathing just out of sync with me. I freeze, heart racing, eyes locked on the stone. The whisper resolves into something almost familiar. My name, spoken gently, patiently. I shake my head, squeezing my eyes shut. No, I murmur more to myself than anything else. When I open them, the symbols seem darker, as if the grooves have deepened. The cracks are wider now. I don't remember them changing, but I can't be sure. Time feels strange down here, elastic and unreliable. I pack the letters away with shaking hands. Evidence or not, they feel dangerous to hold, like they're part of the mechanism keeping this place together. The dragging sound stops. The silence that follows is worse. Expectant, I get the distinct impression that whatever is below is no longer testing randomly. It's listening for me. I back away from the altar, slowly, every instinct screaming not to turn my back on it. My heel hits the edge of the hidden alcove, and I stumble, catching myself on the wall. When my light swings, it catches something I didn't see before. Fresh dust falling from the ceiling directly above the seal. A fine stream, steady and deliberate. Something down there is pushing up, and it's learning. I don't sit down after that. I don't read. I don't check my watch. I stay standing because standing feels closer to running, and running feels like an option I might still have if I don't think too hard. The dust keeps falling in that thin, steady line, like an hourglass turned sideways. Every grain feels intentional, measured. I move my equipment closer to the altar, not because I want better documentation, but because part of me is afraid to be anywhere else. The center of the chapel feels acknowledged, like if something is going to happen, it's going to happen here. And I don't want to be caught unaware in a corner like an afterthought. That thought alone makes my skin crawl. The dragging sound starts again. Louder now. No longer distant. It scrapes along stone with a patience that terrifies me more than speed ever could. I imagine weight shifting, pressure applied carefully, learning where resistance gives the least. I press my palm against the cold stone wall to steady myself and feel a faint tremor pass through it, like a pulse. Not constant, rhythmic. I whisper to myself, narrating out of habit, grounding myself in the sound of my own voice. Still sealed, still contained. The words feel fragile, like they could crack if I say them too confidently. The warmth under the altar has intensified, radiating outward. It's not heat like fire. It's more like body heat, like standing too close to someone without touching them. I kneel again, against my better judgment, and place my ear close to the stone. I don't know what I expect. Breathing maybe. A heartbeat. Instead, I hear something far worse. Layers. A low, overlapping murmur. Not quite voices. Not quite sound. Like echoes stacked on top of each other, slightly out of sync. It reminds me of listening to a crowd through a wall. Except there is no crowd. There is only one thing. A thought slips into my mind that doesn't feel like it originates from me. You stayed. I jerk back, heart slamming against my ribs. No, I say again, louder this time. The word echoes, thin and weak. The murmuring below pauses. For a brief, horrible moment, I think I've offended it. Then the sound resumes. Softer now. Curious. I notice then that the symbols aren't just cracked. Some of them have been altered. Lines slightly reshaped, curves tightened where they used to be loose. Not broken, refined, as if something on the other side has been tracing them from memory, learning their limits by feel. My mouth goes dry. These weren't passive seals. They were active restraints, and they're being studied. The lights flicker, just once, enough to make my stomach drop. I look up at the ceiling, half expecting to see movement there too, but the beams remain still. When the light steadies, the chapel feels smaller, not physically, emotionally, like the walls have leaned in to hear better. I hear footsteps then. They don't come from above. They come from below, but not from directly under the altar. They echo as if moving through corridors that shouldn't exist. Slow, deliberate, each step placed with care. The sound is wrong for stone. Too soft, like bare feet on damp earth. I back away until my shoulders hit the altar rail, my chest tight, breath shallow. A voice rises out of the murmuring, singular now, clearer. I remember this place. It doesn't boom. It doesn't threaten. It speaks like someone recalling a childhood home, with faint fondness. My hands shake violently, and I press them together to stop it. You're sealed, I whisper, hating how small I sound. You were sealed for a reason. A pause. Then, almost gently, yes, the honesty in that answer is worse than denial. I slide down into a crouch, my legs refusing to hold me anymore. The warmth surges, and for a split second, I swear I feel something press upward, like a palm testing a lid. Dust cascades down, stinging my eyes. I cough, blinking hard, and when I look again, there's a hairline gap where solid stone used to be. Not open, not enough for anything physical to pass through. Enough for sound, enough for breath. The air changes immediately. It thickens, heavy with that metallic tang, and something else underneath. Old fabric, extinguished candles, earth long untouched. My head swims. I feel dizzy, disoriented, like I've stood up too fast. The murmuring becomes clearer through the gap, resolving into overlapping whispers that seem to come from everywhere at once. Do you know what they called me? The voice asks, closer now, before they were afraid. I squeeze my eyes shut, trying not to listen, but the words don't need my ears. They settle behind my eyes, unfold in my thoughts. Images flash unbidden, crowded halls, bowed heads, a crown heavy with more than gold, faces frozen in reverence that slowly curdles into fear. They thought burial would end it, the voice continues. They thought sealing me away would stop the listening. My head pounds. I realize dimly that the chapel isn't just a location. It's part of the structure, a lid on a much deeper thing, and it's tired, so tired. The gap widens another fraction of an inch. I scream then, not loud, not dramatic, just a sharp, broken sound of refusal. I won't, I say, though I'm no longer sure what I'm refusing to do. I won't help you. A soft sound answers me, almost a laugh. You already are. The footsteps stop directly beneath me. The pressure builds, steady and immense, and I feel it not just under my feet, but in my chest, my skull, my thoughts. I realize with terrifying clarity that this first night isn't about escape or discovery. It's about introduction, and whatever is below has decided I'm worth speaking to. I don't remember standing up, but I'm on my feet again, my back pressed to one of the stone pillars, like it might anchor me to something solid and familiar. My thoughts feel crowded, like too many people speaking in a small room. Not voices, impressions, intent, memory that isn't mine. I bite the inside of my cheek hard enough to taste blood, just to remind myself where my body ends. The pressure eases slightly, enough for me to breathe again. And I understand something I wish I didn't. This thing beneath the chapel isn't trying to force its way out. Not yet. It's pacing itself, conserving, waiting for the right conditions, the right weaknesses, waiting for me to understand. The crown, I whisper, the word slipping out before I can stop it. The journal pages, the letters, the anchor. My gaze drifts back to the altar stone, to the faint gap, leaking warmth and sound. It wasn't a symbol, was it? A long pause follows. The murmuring softens, reorganizes, like a crowd falling quiet at the request of a single raised hand. No, the voice says. It was a promise. Images press in again, this time slower, more deliberate. I see the crown not on a head, but suspended, lowered carefully into darkness. I feel its weight, immense and crushing, inscribed not with names or victories, but with bindings layered over bindings, not to kill, to hold, to keep something folded inward, compressed into a shape that could be buried. They didn't bury a body, I murmur. They buried a threshold. The satisfaction that rolls through me at that realization makes my stomach churn. It's pleased, not triumphant, validated, like a teacher watching a student finally arrive at the correct answer. The crown taught me stillness, it says, taught me how to wait without fading. The chapel groans softly, a long complaint of stressed stone and ancient wood. Another crack spiders across the carvings. I scramble forward despite myself, pressing my hands against the altar, as if I can physically hold it together. The warmth surges at my touch, and for a heartbeat, I feel something mirror the contact from below. Not pushing, resting. I pull my hands back, shaking. They sealed you because you were changing, I say, piecing it together out loud. Not dying, learning. Yes, the simplicity of that answer terrifies me more than anything else tonight. I flip through the journal again with clumsy fingers, skimming past notes. I've already read until I find a sketch I dismissed earlier, a rough diagram of the tomb's interior. The crown is drawn at the center, suspended above the sarcophagus by chains anchored into the stone, not resting on anything, always pulling downward, always present. A containment that required constant pressure. I laugh then, a thin, hysterical sound that echoes too loudly. Chains corrode, I whisper. Stone cracks. Nothing like that lasts forever. No, the voice agrees, closer now, intimate. But attention does. The realization hits me all at once, stealing the air from my lungs. This place wasn't abandoned, not truly. It was forgotten. The seals weren't failing just because of time. They were failing because no one remembered what they were for. No rituals renewed, no watchers, no one left to listen for the signs, until me. The gap widens again, just enough for a thin stream of warm air to brush my face. It smells like old velvet and extinguished flame. My vision swims, and I drop to one knee, overwhelmed by a sudden crushing sense of importance, of being seen, of being chosen not because I'm special, but because I'm here. You can leave, the voice says, and I know it's telling the truth. The stone will hold a while longer, days, weeks, maybe years. I look toward the chapel door, barely visible in the gloom. Freedom feels distant, unreal, like a story I once heard. But the voice continues softly. You will carry me with you. You will think of the crown, of the weight, of how close I am to standing again. My chest tightens. I realize then what the price really is. Not opening the tomb, not breaking the seal, remembering. Because as long as someone remembers, the waiting continues. And I don't know which is worse, being the one who opens the tomb, or being the last one who knows why it must stay closed. I don't know how long I stay there after that. Time stops behaving like time. It stretches, compresses, folds back on itself. My thoughts slow, then drift, then sharpen again in painful clarity. The gap in the stone doesn't widen anymore. It doesn't need to. Everything that matters has already crossed. I force myself to stand. My legs tremble, but they obey. The pressure beneath the altar settles into something quieter, steadier, like a presence sitting back once it knows it's been acknowledged. The murmuring fades into a low, constant hum, almost comforting in its consistency. That scares me more than the knocking ever did. I gather my things with deliberate care. Each movement feels ceremonial, as if rushing would be disrespectful in a way I can't articulate. The journal feels heavier in my pack now, not with weight, but with obligation. I don't look at the altar again. I know if I do, I'll feel that mirrored attention return, and I'm not sure I'll be able to turn away a second time. The chapel door opens without protest. Outside, the night air is cool and ordinary, filled with the distant sounds of insects and wind through grass. The contrast is disorienting. The world hasn't ended. The sky hasn't split open. History remains undisturbed, exactly as it was before I arrived. I step out, and for a moment, nothing follows. I walk down the path slowly, my breathing evening out, my heart rate settling into something closer to normal. With each step away from the chapel, the pressure in my chest lessens. The whispers recede, not gone, but distant, like a radio turned down low in another room. I reach my car and sit inside without starting it, hands resting on the steering wheel, grounding myself in the familiar texture. This is the part where stories usually end. The escape, the relief, the promise that distance equals safety. So I sit there and let myself believe that for a minute. I let my shoulders drop. I let my thoughts stretch out, uncoiling. I remind myself that stone is still stone, seals are still seals, and nothing followed me out into the dark. The world feels stable again, predictable, safe enough. Then I notice the warmth, not around me, within me. A subtle, steady presence behind my thoughts, like a memory I can't quite place. Not a voice, not words, just awareness, patient, unhurried, waiting without strain. I understand now what the final warning meant. The tomb was never meant to stay closed forever. It was meant to teach something how to wait. And now, it doesn't have to wait alone anymore.